call.
When all that you see
are actors on your television singing off key.
What savvy, well-versed heroes can settle this score? Once more with TV.
Welcome, MDs and MFAs, to Once More with TV, a podcast celebrating TV musical episodes from the sublime to the subprime.
And definitively ranking them using every theater child's worst nightmare, math.
I'm your co-host, Liza Truschel, she, her, and I am a wicked apologist.
And I'm your co-host, Alex Kovnatsky, he, him, and the good doctor looks like my dad. It's real. It looks like a young Clemens Kovnatsky.
Wow, you have a Freddie Highmore dad. I didn't know this about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fascinating. Well, this week we watched medical TV, so we feel qualified to be doctors now.
Yeah, we did it. That's what you have to do, right?
That's what I've heard anyway.
Super
easy. We watched My Musical, Scrubs Season 6, Episode 6.
Yeah, it was actually the 123rd episode, which is not super important, but sounded like a fun fact.
It is a fun fact. Thank you for that. So let's start with your relationship to the show.
Yeah, okay. So I loved Scrubs growing up. I watched a bunch of episodes. I downloaded this episode on iTunes as well as My Lunch, which I think at the time I thought was the most poignant episode of TV of all time.
Which one's My Lunch? Sorry.
I honestly don't even remember. It's something it's something where somebody's having a surgery.
It's not like the Brendan Fraser one, is
No,
it?
it's not. It's like one, I think
Okay.
it's like Dr. Cox quits at the end of it, and that's like a big deal.
Got it.
And like it's like JD has to like help Dr. Cox cope with stuff.
Classic.
Yeah. But I love Scrubs. And this episode in particular, I mean, we'll get into it more in when we talk about the songs, but shout out to one of my oldest and bestest friends, Chris Hunter, and I used to sing Guy Love constantly, just everywhere we were.
Yeah,
so deep connection to this one.
Yeah, no, I was a Scrubs fan too. I watched it on syndication, like when it was just on at like 10 and 10:30 p.m. That always felt like when I was going to be watching Scrubs. So yeah, I watched Scrubs in syndication. Eventually I watched it streaming, like in order, when streaming was invented. But yeah, no, I was a big fan of Scrubs. You know, watching it back, it doesn't always age super well.
Yeah,
I started about that a little bit, I'm sure.
I started a rewatch pretty recently, and I'm on like season 3 or so, and a lot of stuff hasn't aged well. And like some stuff kind of surprisingly has. It's weird. There's like a moment, I think, in one of the first episodes where JD turns to Turk and he's like, "Oh, so can I say the N-word?" And Turk's like, "No, absolutely not." And JD's like, "Okay." And I was like, hey, you know what? That's probably a better way of addressing that than any other show did at this time.
Yeah, I would like to show that particular moment to Quentin Tarantino. Maybe
Exactly.
he would have a good time with it.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of time period, this episode came out in 2007. So,
Oof.
Yeah, woof, right?
Are we old? This is so
Yeah.
exciting.
I was going to say earlier, too, I remember watching it on syndication, too, and I feel like it was one of those shows that it was kind of, like, naughty for me to be watching. You know, I felt like I was getting away with something by watching this show. But, yeah.
There are a lot of sex jokes. There's a lot. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It felt a little adult at the time.
And I think it was on Comedy Central, and that felt like
It was on
raunchy.
Comedy Central, like late at night.
There's a lot of fun facts about this episode that I want to share with you.
Delightful. I'm sure that's true.
Let me ask you this first, Liza. Who do you think from the cast of Scrubs has musical theater experience, or, you know, in this episode, I guess, who has musical theater experience?
Oof. Like professional or just...
Let's go with professional first.
Wow. This is going to sound weird, but Dr. Kelso?
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Did I get that right?
You're totally right. Bill Lawrence, who created Scrubs, he's a huge musical head, and he said that he saw Dr. Kelso in Big River on Broadway.
God, I'm a fucking genius. Yeah,
You nailed it.
Yeah, that intro song that he gets, the kind of like Welcome to Sacred Heart, he has a really stage like theater older theater guy energy that is like, and he's got that, you know, kind of like talky singing voice that sort of happens to older actors, but I was like, this is someone who feels like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like that he felt very intentional.
No, you hit the nail on the head there. Obviously, most of the people in this cast are like pretty decent singers, and some of them I think had like small theater backgrounds or like, you know, had done theater as kids or something like that. But Dr. Kelso was the only one I saw who had like actual Broadway experience, which is pretty funny.
That is fun. Yeah, no, everybody else, like, I mean, JD has a line at the end where he's like, he mentions he's gone to theater camp. And that feels correct for a lot of the rest of the cast. It's like, yeah, and that's really common, especially with like up and coming actors. Like, you've done musical theater. Whether or not you were good at it, different question. But you've done some type of like either in high school or at theater camp or regional theater. Like that is true of most actors coming up, especially around this time when I feel like the only thing you were allowed to be was a triple threat. Do you remember when that was like the thing?
Yeah, you had
to be a triple threat for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, if you were only good at two of the things, you were nothing. Like why are you
as someone who is a famous double threat, I was I was like, ostracized in this time.
As like maybe a single or 1.5 threat, I feel you on that. I really do. Yeah. The rules are different for guys, though, I will say.
They are. You can turn a 1.5 into a 3 real easy.
Real easy.
Girl can't dance. So. But choreo in this was fun, actually.
Choreo was fantastic. Fantastic.
Really enjoyed it.
I like counted so many box steps, so many jazz hands, so many
box steps. We got trenches. We've got jazz hands. We've got a kick line at one point. We're doing like a Bugsby Berkeley kind of like crane shot with like all of the like circular dancing, and I'm like, I'm delighted.
I don't know what it's called when you have like one hand like this and the other hand outstretched and you're like
I just
running
call it
away.
Musical theater hands. I don't know. It's kind of like that. It's a ballet run. To me.
That's
like
what
when
it is.
When you've bent one arm in front of you and the other is extended as you run forwards. I mean, that's ballet acting. That's always what I call that.
I would be remiss to say, though, we'll talk more about choreo, but I'd be remiss to say that the main character of this episode who's brought in for this episode is also a Broadway star, Stephanie D'Abruzzo.
Oh, yeah. She was in Avenue Q. Is that right?
Exactly. Nailed it. She's got a Tony nom. And she, I think, was also in Sesame Street as well, too.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. A lot of puppet experience, but she's fantastic. And speaking of Avenue Q as well, the music was done by kind of a whole team of people led by Deborah Fordham, who is,
Who's just a writer for the show, right?
One of the main writers for the show, yeah.
Okay.
But
I feel like I've seen that name just like a bunch of times on the like written by credit. So yeah.
The cool thing is that they usually have a writer's room for episodes like this, but she basically wrote the whole episode and doesn't really have any experience writing musical theater lyrics or anything like that. And was just like, yeah, I love musical theater. I want to do this. But they brought on Marks and Lopez from Avenue Q, like the creators of Avenue Q and Frozen and Book of Mormon.
You mean
and all that.
EGOT Lopez?
Yeah. It's crazy.
Like a guy who's won an EGOT wrote some of these songs.
Exactly.
That is buck wild.
No,
my god, fun.
That couple is insanely talented, and I think this was even. I mean, it was certainly before Frozen, but I think it was even before Book of Mormon. I think they only had Avenue Q at the time, so I think they were still kind of up and coming.
Wow, that's so fun. Oh, I love that.
Also on that music team that's fun, Jan Stevens, should mention, is on that team who does the music supervision for Scrubs, but also Paul Perry, who is the bass singer in that quartet of
Ted's Barbershop Quartet.
Yeah.
Delightful.
He wrote like a bunch of the songs. It's very fun.
That's so cute. I love that. I love a good team effort. It makes it feel like a labor of love. I think that's something that really like comes across in this episode that's good for me. It's like everybody feels really excited that this is happening. I'm sure it was an exhausting process for a show that is not built to do this, but everybody does seem like this is the thing we really wanted to do this whole time. Like everybody seems quite thrilled by it.
Yeah, it really is an act of love. And I think Bill Lawrence wanted to do a musical episode for a really long time. Was obviously inspired by Buffy as well too. You've got the open "Why Are We Singing" song. Like, exactly.
That's sort of the thing that Buffy invented.
And that was the thing. He wanted to like justify having a reason to do a musical episode. And I think the justification's good as any. I think it fits Scrubs' world pretty well, even though it's a little bit silly.
I mean, it's a little silly, but it's happened. I mean, it's slightly better than when Grey's Anatomy does it. Works a little bit better. It's essentially the same explanation, which is brains, shrug. I will say it's also, there's a fun, you know about Mary Steenburgen, right? Have I told you the story?
No, I don't think so. Tell me.
So Mary Steenburgen's an actress, like mostly well known for playing loving maternal figures. So I don't know, like in The Proposal, that's always the first thing I think of. She's Ryan Reynolds' mom, and she's like the mom in Elf. Like she's a character actress. She's totally lovely. She went under for surgery, I believe, on like her arm or something. It was not a brain related surgery. And when she came out of anesthesia, she was hearing music all the time.
Whoa.
And therefore has been for the last several years. And it was driving her sort of insane, as you can imagine, because she was not musically trained in like any way before this. So she went and she like learned music theory, and she learned how to play several instruments, and she now composes music because she hears it all the time.
That's sick.
She was like shortlisted for an Oscar for Best Original Song a couple years ago.
What? For what song?
Glasgow, No Place Like Home, from the movie Wild Rose, which starred Jessie Buckley.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's so random.
It's like, isn't it crazy? It's one of my favorite, like, weird Hollywood stories.
That's so cool. Well, okay, I guess it means that this isn't silly after all. This is totally possible.
Yeah, this is actually super real. And we should treat it as such. This is medically relevant to today.
That's crazy.
So.
I have one last fun fact for you that is like very tailored for you specifically, Liza.
I love that.
This episode got 5 Emmy nominations and 1 win. One of the things that it was nominated for was original music and lyrics. It was nominated twice, once for Guy Love and once for Everything Comes Down to Pooh.
2 bangers.
What song do you think it lost to? 2007.
Oh my God. So wait, they both lost. To something else in 2007. You know when like your brain is screaming at you and it's actually just so loud. It feels like there's just a mob and I can't pick out any individual sounds from it.
I'll give you a hint that it is the combination of a pop star and a comedian.
Combination of a pop star and a comedian? I'm just kicking myself. I'm like preemptively kicking myself. Okay, another hint. Hint, sir.
The word sir. Pop star is a big hint.
The word pops. Oh, is it oh my God, it was there and then it left. Did you see that?
I did.
It was amazing.
I saw an answer enter your head and then leave just as quickly.
And then, oh my God, it was there for a fleeting moment. I could taste it. You're just gonna have to tell me.
It's for Dick in the Box.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Which I was like upset that they didn't win until I looked it up and saw who won, and I was like, oh, Dick in a Box. Yeah. That's correct.
I mean, it's extremely correct.
Yeah.
It's iconic. It's iconic. Unfortunately, that's a tough thing to go up against in the original song category.
But yeah, let's get into the actual episode. So we open with a bunch of other stuff that happens before the music, JD and Elliot talking, Carla and Turk talking. But I want to get to the music. That Welcome to Sacred Heart opening number is so good. It's so freaking
fun.
Good.
It's really very like Hello Dolly, very like 42nd Street, like old school.
It's great that you mentioned that. They were inspired by Lullaby Broadway, 42nd Street, and Be Our Guest. Those were like the 2 big inspirations.
Oh, Be Our Guest is such a good, yep, you can see that.
Yeah.
You can see that.
I really love that at the very beginning. I think this is even before they're at Sacred Heart, when she's like on the floor and they start singing to her, like, how many fingers am I holding up? I love that they have like a little guitar riff that's happening that sounds exactly the same as like the guitar riffs generally in the background of the show. I thought it was just a really nice touch.
It's sort of diegetic for like a second there.
Exactly.
We're sort of like, we're still in the world of the show and we're transitioning quite seamlessly into now we're all singing.
Exactly.
Which is very fun.
The like opening the doors of the ambulance and then the music just starts like that. It's incredible. It gave me chills.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun. They also stick, I will say, like, in their rule that this is the only woman hearing music, they stick quite literally to that. Like, if she is not in the room, we are speaking. But as soon as she enters the room, everybody is singing, which is so fun.
There's a great moment. I don't remember what song it was in, but Carla and Elliot are singing about something, and she's being wheeled onto the screen, and then she's wheeled through a door, and the door closes, and they start talking. It was like seamless transition between that. I love it. I think they established the rules really well and stuck to it.
Yeah, it's quite fun. It's quite fun. I love a very clear world building rule. I love that.
I think this opening number, you mentioned before the crane shots and everything and the choreography. I think this one has probably the most choreography, but they do have choreography pretty consistently throughout the whole episode. I'm curious what your thoughts were on the choreography overall in this one song.
In this one song, I mean, like, obviously this is the most extensive, like, dance cast. Like, this is also just the largest number of people we have for any song by far. Because for the rest of the show, we're really limited to the, like, hallways of Sacred Heart. That is where most of the drama happens on this program, is in hallways. So, we have, like, so much space in the parking lot. So we have so many more dancers. I don't know. I was delighted by the choreo. It's really simple, but it feels really accessible to everybody in the cast. I love that our main cast is doing it.
Yeah.
Like, everybody who is top billed has to do that dumb little jazz square and those like big musical theater hands and like all of that stuff, which is delightful. I mean, I just love when everybody gets involved. It feels so communal.
And nobody's half doing it, too. Everybody's
all in. Fully committing. Even when they're kind of wrong, which is, like, great. Because also, like, you know, she's created a world where she makes everybody, like, sing and dance, but that doesn't mean that any of them are dancers, which I kind of love.
and I really, to your credit, I love the point that everybody dances. Every person who's even a side character on the show shows up to sing at some point. I think that's really nice. I think they did it in such a great way. And
it feels very theater campy, where you have to make sure like everybody has a part and like something to do. There are no small roles. Like, this feels very theater camp to me.
It really does. It really does. They don't skip a beat. We go straight into the second number. Everything Comes Down Poo. Fantastic song.
What a fun song, especially the bit where they're like, I sprained my ankle, check the poo. Like, that bit really gets to me.
The check the poo bit was really good.
Yeah, it's such a real thing. I feel like when you're going into, like, if you've been into the doctor recently, I mean, who can afford that? But it does feel like a very real thing where, like, sometimes they're asking for a stool sample and you're like, is that relevant in any way, shape, or form? Like, how on earth does that have any? It felt like it was coming from a real lived experience.
A real place, totally. No, the writers definitely mentioned that it came from a place of, like, I feel like every time I go to the hospital, they're asking for a stool sample, and it does not seem necessary at all.
It's also because it's such a thing that sticks out. I'm sure doctors don't really think about it that much, but as a patient, it sticks out to you so much because that's so weird. Like catching your poo in a cup. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's so uncomfortable. It's so odd. It's something that sticks with you forever, even if the doctor just passes it on.
Exactly. They had to change the lyrics a bunch of times, apparently, because they were, like, trying to find the happy medium between, like, oh, that sounds too tame, or that sounds too vulgar.
Sure. I mean, you got to find a lot of synonyms for poo in this.
Yeah. One of the synonyms they had to nix was turtle head.
Oh, God. I'm kind of glad they did, actually.
Exactly.
Don't like that.
They had a lyric originally that was, it may sound gross, it may sound crass, but we need to see what comes out of your ass. They had to change it to tush or something, change the whole rhyme.
Yeah.
But it's great.
It's also, this is fun hallway choreo. This is where we get our kick line.
Yes.
We get some trenches in here. It's
Mhm.
quite a fun little number.
And even in the small moments when like Turk is like getting behind the wheelchair and then just popping his head out, and like, the little choreo movements are so nice. It's so tasteful.
Again, everybody's committed in every second, which is always what you're like trying to get your theater camp kids to do, is just sell it. Even if you don't know the step, I need you to be locked in, And everybody's really locked in on these.
Yeah. And it should be mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned it before with the previous song, but it happens with this and all the other songs too. The orchestration is just so fantastic. You have these like really kind of like lilting strings at times that feels very old timey, and then like some good horn sections too.
Well,
I think it's just so
we've got like a pit
nice.
orchestra in. And that's what it feels like. We've got the pit queuing up. It's just fun. Yeah.
The next song is Gonna Miss You, Carla. One fun fact about this, or I guess not as fun, the actress who plays Carla had fractured her pelvis before the filming of this episode.
Oh my god. Is that why she's in the fucking chair?
That's why she's in the fucking chair the whole
note.
time.
Okay. Wait. Then what about the tango number that
They had to film that like 2 months later.
Oh.
Yeah. They filmed it like post everything.
Oh.
But everything else, like even when you see her like walking, she's kind of like in pain, and you can kind of tell.
Yeah, I mean, like she's really not very mobile for like most of this episode, and I was kind of curious about that. Yeah, because it is very odd that she's sitting in a chair this entire song and everybody's kind of singing around her.
Yeah,
it's a very odd thing. Also because the chair is placed in I get why it's put there, but it's not where it normally is on the set.
Yeah,
like
totally.
It's been moved.
Yeah,
it's just a very odd thing.
And I think at one point they were trying to say something about, it's post, giving birth or something like that for her, but I don't think they really committed to that.
You know how women have to sit?
Yeah. But she sounds great. I mean, as far as there's a big question at the end of the episode of like who's the best singer. And I think there's a really fair shout for Carla. I think Carla's quite
She's
fantastic.
got this kind of jazzy, like brassy kind of tone that's nice to listen to. This is kind of a jazzy, upbeat number.
Yeah, totally. And there's like the barbershop quartet guys.
The barbershop, Laverne's there. I wish we used Laverne more. I think that is one of my notes for this episode. I feel like she has like 2 lines of a solo that really work, and then she doesn't get any more time, which feels rude.
Totally. This song felt like
sing.
let's get all of the side characters. I think Doug was in there too, and then Ted and the quartet.
Doug falls over at one point.
Yeah, so I think it's one of those things where they, had a select number of songs and they wanted to make sure the main characters had them or whatever. But I agree. We could have used Laverne a lot more. She sounded fantastic.
Yeah, she sounded great.
And I also want to shout out Turk has that little fun high note that happens. And I was like, oh, great. He's so good at this. He also might be the best singer in this whole episode. But then Ted does the same exact thing and he also does a great job. And I was like, hey, everybody's doing great.
I mean, Ted and the Barbershop are there the whole series. They're very solid vocally. They're quite fun to listen to. We utilize Ted musically many times throughout the series. We know he's good.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, the bassist of that group wrote some of these songs. I think he wrote that song.
That makes sense. It's got a very like kind of snappy doo-woppy kind of thing going on.
Their quartet name I think changes a bunch of times, but on Wikipedia at least it's listed as the Worthless Peons, which I think is great. Just wanted to put that out there. From there we get the rant song, Dr. Cox's little
the patter.
Exactly.
Patter number.
The patter number.
Got a modern major general over here.
That is exactly, wow, you are nailing these. That is exactly the inspiration.
Fire. I was in Pirates of
Penzance.
That's
so funny.
Wow. Not my vocal range, I'll tell you that. Every woman in that is a soprano, and it sucks.
I barely know that show.
I mean, hey, if you've been in that show, the thing is you've rehearsed that song, Modern Major General. I've spent hours of my life, hours and hours of my life listening to a young man try to get through that song. So it's unfortunately like burned in my brain. And so whenever there's a patter song, that just lights up. There's a whole part of my cortex that just goes nuts. It's like,
so the fun thing about this song as well too is that the main character who has, you know, who's imagining all of these people singing, her name is Patty, and it's partly because she has, quote, a Patti LuPone moment when she sings at the end of this song, which is incredible.
Yeah, when she comes in on that belt, that's so fun. It is a Patti LuPone moment. Patti LuPone invented that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Nobody had ever sung before Patti LuPone, actually.
No, nobody had ever done that before Patti LuPone did.
I love the janitor's little ballad moment as well too.
I love a good, like, solid, here's our baritone. Like, he's just gonna go in. Yeah,
Let's put a spotlight on this
a
guy.
solo spot. Let's just do, like, everything's one key light for this man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a fun time. I love the janitor.
Janitor's great. They have a good shout out to, like, the first episode where JD puts a penny in the door or something and stops it up. I don't remember.
Their feud.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
yeah, I mean, like, the janitor believes, I guess, if I remember correctly, JD says it might be a penny stuck in the door
That's
because
right.
the front door isn't working. And so when it is a penny stuck in the door, the janitor believes that JD did that on purpose.
Exactly. Some great lore, some great Scrubs lore.
Yeah, some Scrubs lore.
Then we get the Act 1 closer. I don't know if you know, it was split into 2 acts is how they were doing it.
It is, yeah. I mean, that's what I wrote down, is this feels very, do you hear the people sing?
Exactly. And then they have, like, the counterpoint as well too, trying to do, like, a one day more type of thing. It's
oh,
great.
yeah, totally. Oh, no, it is one day more, sorry. That's, I mean.
No, but it's also, do you hear the people sing? Because I think they say the line, hearing the people sing or something.
Okay, yes. They do. But it's more of a Les Mis reference. You're right in that it's one day more, because it's doing the whole, like, well, it's the close of Act 1.
Mm-hmm.
We're summarizing everything that's happened in Act 1. Everybody's going to do their own little, like, you know, musical whatever. They're going to do their own little reprises of the songs they've had, and summing where they are, and we're going to tease what's coming up in the next act.
Exactly. And the janitor's carrying the mop like a flag. I love that.
Yeah,
bit.
and we've got like a snare drum underneath everything. A good, like, march. Yeah, so we've got a full one day more scenario on our hands.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they end with a curtain. They close the curtain on her. And so that's the curtain for Act 1.
I actually
thought that was
didn't
very
notice
fun.
that. That is, wow, you're correct.
And what a better way to start Act 2 than with, I mean, the breakout song from this.
Breakout hit, yeah. The Runaway Love duet.
It's so difficult because Guy Love is so homophobic, but it's such a banger. It's so good.
Here's the thing, is I kind of wonder if, like, viewed in context, this is 2007, you said?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Viewed in context, like, kind of what they're talking about, like, it's obviously there is a homophobic over/undertone to this, but it's almost more that they're annoyed that everybody can't understand platonic love between men, and that other people are projecting toxic masculinity onto them. And Turk has a little bit of it, like, he is desperate not to be seen as gay, but there's almost more of a frustration that they have to explain it. Like,
I see that, and I still think it's probably good for the time period.
For the time period, I think it was, like, weirdly progressive.
Totally.
Actually.
And there are way, way, way more homophobic things that happen throughout Scrubs than this song.
I mean, yeah, there are. I mean, we can kind of talk about it when we talk about general vibe, but, like, sometimes Dr. Cox, to me, is the thing that doesn't age well mostly about this show. Like, I just don't appreciate that it's, like, funny that he calls JD girl names, because being a girl is an insult.
Yeah.
Like,
and it happens every episode, literally
every episode all the time.
Yeah.
It kind of ruins the Patter song for me, because all it is like, you know, a bunch. So there are a lot of jokes on this show that don't necessarily age too well. But yeah, I think for the time, this is a love unspecified. I think for the time they're trying sort of to talk about assumptions we make about male relationships, and how we assume that in order for a man to love another man, they must be gay. They're a little too insistent that they're not gay. I mean, that's where it comes across as
exactly
weird.
Yeah, But it is still funny, and it's so good.
funny.
It's such a banger.
I love a close harmony duet,
Yeah.
and like There for All the Highs is such a nice moment.
And their acting is so good in it too, like especially JD like straining to hit some notes, and
Yeah.
I think it's
really
so
fun.
funny.
It's such a lesson in commitment being more important than being able to sing.
Yes,
In
totally.
these, especially on TV, because we can see your face so clearly.
Mhm.
So it's such a when JD is doing stuff like that, when he's like straining to hit a note, it's comical. It's funny. You don't care that he doesn't maybe quite make it perfectly, because why would he? He's a doctor.
Totally. No, it feels
Right?
perfectly in character. I think Zach Braff honestly does a great job throughout this whole
Oh, I
episode
think he's
because
great.
his singing
Yeah.
sounds exactly what I would expect JD to sing like, you know?
Yeah.
I love this little tidbit that like Fordham was having trouble writing the lyrics to this song, and Perry, who's the one in the bassist in the quartet, came up with the hook, "It's guy love between two guys," and she said it became so much easier writing the rest of the song after
Galaxy
that.
brain moment. Yeah.
It's such a great lyric.
It's such a great lyric. It's so like fun and dumb and simplistic, and it's really excellent. Guy Love Between Two Guys is like, it's such a good song.
It's so good. I literally wrote no notes during this sequence because I was just delighted the whole time. I was like really thrown back, and I think it fits so well in the context of the episode too, as like the starting of the second act of this. I love that song.
I just love that it's our only love duet. Because I would argue that over the course of the series, the only love that I can really believe in, maybe, is Turk and JD. I mean, like, I think, and I guess we'll get into this literally right now because the next song is the Dominican one, the one where
Yeah.
these men are terrible partners.
They're
Everybody
horrible
but each
partners.
other.
They're horrible partners all the time. It's
Except for each other. They're so supportive of each other, and they're horrific romantic partners. It's amazing.
It's so true. I honestly, part of the reason why I haven't finished this rewatch, or I've only stopped at like season 3, is because it becomes so insufferable to watch JD after a while. I like really
my
can't
God.
follow him
I mean,
anymore.
He's just really awful and annoying. I didn't realize until the end of the episode when his monologue came back in how much I hadn't missed it. I was like, oh, thank God. But yeah, no, I mean, this whole thing, this tango we get with Carla and Turk is fun because Judy Reyes is great, and it's fun because Donald Faison is great, but it sucks because he can't remember basic facts about his wife that are like important to her identity. Like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, it's really fucked.
It's treated so lightly. Just like, he knows nothing about. I am made furious by this song. This song has always infuriated me.
I will say it's such a good song too because it is so frustrating the whole time. Every single thing Turk says in response is inane, and some of the lyrics are so insane the way they try to rhyme Dominican with things. Like, there's so much stuff happening at once. It's like a dumpster fire of a song in the most positive way possible. It's so good.
It's very chaotic and it's infuriating.
I love that the title of the song is "For the Last Time I'm Dominican." That's a hilarious title of a song.
Well, it's like not the first time on the show that he has like wrongfully identified her ethnicity.
Yeah.
Like, that happens. That's like a running joke, which again does not age like super well.
Yeah, no,
It's
not
also
at
just
all.
like, from a basic standpoint, again, I'm just like, wow, what a thing for your husband to not know about you.
Yeah.
You're married. He's met your whole family. Like,
Yeah, and doesn't remember that you have 2 sisters and doesn't know the middle name
Doesn't-
and all this kind of stuff.
your
It's
middle
so
name or
weird.
where you grew up. Like,
Yeah.
this is bad.
But he knows Derek Jeter. that's the thing
Yeah,
he
that
points out.
sucks.
Yeah,
It's meant
makes
as a
it
joke,
worse.
but I was more upset. I was angrier after he knew about Derek Jeter's batting average.
Yeah, of all people too. Come on.
Yeah. Come on. I guess it's before we knew about Derek Jeter, though.
Oh, good point. Good point. Yeah.
This is still the pro Derek Jeter era.
What a horrible time to be.
What a horrible time to be a baseball fan.
The the last song is two songs at once. It's Friends Forever and What's Going to Happen.
It's We Go Together.
It's We Go Together. It really is. I love that the Ramalama Ding Dongs are just like medical shit. Like, it's so funny.
It's like, honestly, for me, like when I was watching this, it's very, very close in timeline to like the first time I saw Grease. Mm-hmm. And so genuinely, like, I have trouble separating the lyrics from We Go Together from the lyrics from this song.
That's so
like,
funny.
I'll get it mixed up. I'll think that like Grease has a line about the tibia and the fibula.
It's so good because it's so like overt, and then it's like the classic Scrubs moment of like, let's just do a hard tonal shift right now.
Hard. Oh
just
my
like
god, the pivots on this show. Yeah.
I should mention
right into like a Rent song.
Exactly. I was gonna say we should have mentioned that Tango Maureen is obviously
Maureen, yeah.
The reference.
Very obviously the reference point, yeah.
This one is basically Will I / life support. You know, this is like very much a Rent song as well too.
Which was having like a real moment around this time. Like I feel like it. Do we know off the top of our heads when the Rent movie came out?
I think honestly 07 sounds right to me. I think it might even be earlier. I think it might be 06. But
yeah,
07
which would make a lot of sense for like I think influentially speaking, Rent was sort of having this moment.
Rent was 05.
Rent was 05, there you go. Rent was sort of having this big moment because we'd just done the movie with, you know, Idina Menzel.
Yeah, a lot of the original cast.
And like and so Rosario Dawson, etc. So I feel like it was such a clear through line for so many musicals that were written right after.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it hit me at the right moment. I will probably say this in one of our intros, but I am a Rent apologist for sure.
Sure.
Rent the movie and the musical.
To me, Rent is proof that if I die, I don't want my first drafts published.
That's great.
It's a mean thing to say. But
I love that that's your takeaway. It's a fantastic takeaway.
Yeah. That's like when I'm sitting there thinking, it's like, wow, I hope my legacy isn't stuff I hadn't revised yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think Tick Tick Boom is stronger. We can talk about that a different day.
Whoa. Okay.
I do.
That's an interesting one.
I think it's interesting.
But anyway, What's Going to Happen? I thought this song was pretty gorgeous. The harmonies were really amazing, and I thought it was like genuinely poignant. I really liked it.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice little moment.
I was thinking the whole time that this is absolutely a lawsuit if she is not okay. You know?
Oh my god,
you
I
cannot
know.
say,
you can't say
we
that.
promise you you're going to be okay. We swear you're going to be okay.
Yeah. I that's genuinely what I was thinking of. It's like it's really reckless to promise that she's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. It's nice musically, but it's legally a nightmare.
Yeah.
Notably, Ted is not in that scene.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, I just made that up, but he's our lawyer.
Yeah, he's our lawyer.
He would normally be the one freaking out.
Just like sweating so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, to answer the question from before that's asked at this point in the episode, do you have a best singer?
It's such a good question. For me, it's gonna go either to Kelso or Turk.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, I think Kelso's got that, like, I can see the Music Man, you know? Like, he's got that kind of Music Man style.
So much control.
So much, and it's quite theatrical, and it's really engaging. And Turk's got range. I mean, he's got, like, there's something very, like, smooth and interesting about his voice, and he phrases really well.
Yeah, I think Turk has to take it just because he does more too. You know what I mean?
He does so much more. I mean, that's the thing. I kind of wish Kelso had a little bit more to do in some of our hallway scenes, because he's usually just wandering. Nobody works in this hospital. We all just walk around the halls and bump into each other. But yeah.
Yeah, and as a nice little button, I love that she hums "Welcome to Sacred Heart" at the very end. Yeah. It's a nice little connect back to the beginning. It's a perfect episode. I loved it. I thought it was great.
It's a very fun time. Well, I think we feel very strongly And I think we need to score it.
Let's score this sucker. General vibe. What are you thinking for this one here, Liza? This is enjoyment level. This is how well it's aged. Any problematic stuff? Is it a good episode overall?
So this is kind of tough because I do think the vibe is really good, but again, I mean, we mentioned the problematic moments. I mean, like Guy Love has this homophobic element to it. Yeah, Cox has his whole sexist bullshit going on, and then we've got, Turk being a bad partner as a joke. So I do think there are, I mean, even if the vibe remains relatively fun, we do have to dock some points here.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we have to, unfortunately. There are things that just have not aged well here.
Yeah. In my head, each one of those things is a full point docked. Like I'm thinking a 7 or 6 maybe.
Yeah, let's go 7. 7 feels right. Because again, it's still fun. Like you're still having a good time. It's just like there are moments where it kind of disappears for a little while.
Exactly. It's super fun. I think they hit the vibe of like we're gonna do a musical and we're all going to love it, and really have fun with it. I think that
we
is
found
so
that
strong.
the really successful musical episodes, I think, like as a rule, have an element of fun to them. I think that's like a level of acknowledgement, a level of tongue-in-cheek, a level of, okay, we're breaking our own form, we're doing a thing, let's just have fun with it. So yeah, I think 7 sounds right.
Okay, cool. Next up we have music. Obviously it's original music that's already going to be great for us, but we're thinking how it's arranged, the different chords, melodies, all that kind of stuff. I think it's pretty darn strong.
It's pretty strong. We've got like full orchestrations for a lot of stuff. We've got, like we said, some pretty hard hitting. We got Marks and Lopez in, which is wild. Not for all of the songs, but for a few. And I think we're doing a lot of sort of like pastiche references to other popular musicals and popular songs from those musicals. So yeah, I think this is going to end up pretty high.
Yeah, I think it's a 10. The thing is, I have no notes. I don't have anything bad to say.
I don't really
about
have
it.
any moments that I hated musically. So yeah.
10 it is. Lyrics. What do you think about lyrics?
This is a bit of a tricky one. I mean, we've addressed that the lyrics were not written by a lyricist. And I think for someone who's not a lyricist, she did an incredible job. I mean, like, I think there's a lot of fun. I think some of the songs have like really great lyrics. Like Guy Love has some really fantastic lyrics in it. I don't know. Some of them are sort of just not terribly remarkable. I mean, some of the songs just, I don't know. I just feel like the lyrics to We're Gonna Miss You, Carla aren't interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Sometimes I don't feel very strongly about the lyrics in any kind of way.
Yeah, and I think there should be something to be said about having the lyrics match up to songs we already know, like the Tango Maureen bit, the like rant song, the patter song. I think there's a good job of making it reminiscent to other songs without making it solely the same exact rhyme scheme or structure of other songs. So that's a credit I want to give there. There's a bunch of like near rhymes that are dumb, especially with all of the medical jargon and with the Dominican song. But I kind of love that. It kind of works for me.
Yeah, in the Dominican one, they're kind of using it as a goof, like all of those slant rhymes. It feels like they're like very aware that this is a hard thing to rhyme with, so we're sort of doing some slant rhyming. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be lower than the music score for sure. I'm feeling a 7.
Okay, I would have put it a little bit higher. I was thinking like an 8 or a 9 actually, because I think
you can do 7.5 if you want.
Yeah, actually, I think 7.5 is probably solid. I was just thinking that I didn't have anything that was like noticeably bad for me. It was like
That's
either
true. Yeah.
not noticeable or it was good or funny, But yeah, 7.5 sounds great. Dancing. Big category here.
Big category. I mean, we really go for it. The cast is not dancers. We've clearly hired like a group of core dancers that are in almost every shot, and they're just nurses we've never seen before. Don't worry about it.
But we also see everyone we have seen before too, like doing a little bit of it, which I love about that.
and it's not overly complicated, but I don't think it needed to be more complicated than it is. I didn't feel that it was lacking. Yeah, to me, this is a pretty high score.
Yeah, I think it's pretty high as well too. I was thinking like an 8 or 9 for this as well.
Yeah. Let's go for an 8.
Yeah, I think 8 sounds solid. There's definitely room
because
for.
we're not trying. We're also not trying anything totally interesting. We're having fun. But there aren't any big swings choreography wise.
Exactly. I think the only big swing is just having a lot of people doing it and having everybody do it. Which is totally fair. I mean, like, that is something commendable for sure, but there's not much beyond that. Performance, vocal performance, acting performance.
This is going to be pretty high. I mean, we kind of mentioned it already. Everybody feels really committed to everything that's going on. And we've seem to be really aware of like the skills that our cast has and doesn't have, and we're playing into everybody's pockets performance wise. Really, nobody feels too stretched.
Not at all. I think even the people who seem the weakest, maybe Elliot and Dr. Cox are probably like the weakest performers. It's not a sore thumb. I think they do a very passable job, and let their acting do most of the work for them in a way that I think is totally good.
Totally fine. Yeah, so this is pretty high for me. This is going to be like a 9.
Yeah, I think a 9 sounds good. Yeah. The writing. What do we think about the writing? This one's an interesting one because when I think of this episode, it really goes number to number. But I'm curious what your thoughts.
There's very few spoken scenes. It's really just like, little bits where that woman is in the room. So it's with like JD, and JD thinks he's going to be in with Elliot. And then there's that scene at the top, the cold open with Turk and Carla when they're talking about her going back to work. I mean, it's very simplistic writing. It's broad. It's like it's a sitcom. And
it feels consistent with Scrubs episodes so far. They usually have an ABC plot or something.
Yeah, usually an ABC plot. We open with JD's monologue. We close with JD's monologue. I mean, like, writing-wise, I don't think there's anything particularly interesting happening here. That's not the lyrics.
And I think if there's any negative, I would say that we're having fun the whole time, and it seems like Patty, the main character, is having fun the whole time until the very end when she's like, oh no. But that also feels like Scrubs to me.
It also feels very Scrubs. So yeah, I mean, nothing... I don't think there's much of note here that we haven't talked about in general vibe. I mean, I think some of the things about Turk being a terrible partner are also in the spoken scenes. I just got really frustrated with him this episode, which sucks because I love Donald Faison and Turk is funny. But I was like, Jesus Christ, this guy is the worst.
Listen, that is what watching Scrubs is like. Is like you'll have the episodes where you love those characters, and they have other episodes where you're like, why are we doing this? This is so unnecessary. Yeah, I'm thinking 6 or 7 on this.
Yeah, let's give it a 6.
Yeah.
Let's give it a 6. It's consistent, but not.
Nothing incredible. Okay, direction. This one's interesting. I should have mentioned this earlier, but the person who directed this episode is Will Mackenzie, who is like an old Hollywood actor, but also did a bunch of musicals and also directed a bunch of shows as well, too.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on direction?
I think it's pretty strong. It's pretty different from other Scrubs episodes by necessity. I mean, like, so much of Scrubs is done in like a close-up to a medium close-up because we're just on JD, and then like his weird little like, he tilts his head and then we go to a strange little scene, right?
Yeah,
like
totally.
So it is really different, like directing wise, from other episodes. Again, we've talked about the crane shots already, especially in 2007 for like a network show. That's, not something you were seeing very often.
Totally. And it feels like theater in a way that I think is notable.
Well,
because
the lighting's a little more bold and a little more colorful and a little more like stage lighting.
Yeah,
like,
and
the lighting is notably different. Yeah,
the framing and blocking seems really intentional so that everybody is in their like specific places to have their sight lines and everything. So I think it's a testament to how good the direction is that we don't really have so much to say about it. That nothing seemed glaringly off.
Yeah, no, I think the direction is really solid. It's very it's not necessarily inventive, but I don't think that it has to be. I think what it needs to be is more referential. So, yeah, I mean, to me this rates pretty highly.
Nice. Yeah, what are we thinking? Like a 7 or an 8?
I was thinking 8. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
Again, fun, but no huge swings.
Yeah.
But fun.
Yeah, I think the huge swing is the crane, and I think in that time it is a swing, but it's not like a massive swing. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's not a massive one.
Commitment.
I mean, it commits really hard. I don't have any
hard.
notes here, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
It jumps right in. It's like, why are we singing? Okay, we're singing. From there, we basically just sing for the rest of the episode.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't think you can say anything about the commitment, especially in terms of all of the individual actors too are like so committed to like
everyone's committed. Everyone's in it. Again, we've done theater camp. Everybody gets a part. Everybody has a line. I mean, it feels really committed.
Yeah. What are we saying then? 10?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't have any moments where I felt like they weren't committed.
Exactly. And then the stakes for this. This one's interesting because I saw that Bill Lawrence had said that he wanted the stakes to matter in this episode. Like, that's why he's justifying a musical episode. But I'm not sure if the stakes really do matter. I don't know if it shifts anything super significantly. It shifts things in the way that Scrubs shifts things in most episodes. Like, people make life decisions and it doesn't really seem, things just change constantly.
Elliot moves out, but we kind of like, and Carla decides she's going to go back to work. But kind of like, those don't feel very big. And especially with the Elliot moving out one, because I guess we're just not going to give Sarah Chalk a whole song to talk about it. It's kind of like you forget it's happening for like large swaths of the episode.
100%.
So it doesn't feel very high stakes or that. I mean, like, the thing about a long running sitcom is that often you can't really change the stakes a lot in one episode because you are kind of operating on the idea that a lot of people will have missed certain episodes, especially at this time when streaming was not a thing. Like, they might have missed last week's.
Yeah.
So huge things are really reserved for mid-season finales or season finales. So yeah, I mean, I think if you had missed this episode, the worst thing that would happen is that JD would mention in his monologue in the open of the next episode, Elliot had moved out and Carla was back at work.
Exactly.
Literally, that's it. So it doesn't feel like the stakes are very high.
No, I agree with that completely. And I think the only thing that could be said for high stakes is for the main character who is not going to appear again. Right. So, yeah, I don't think the stakes are super high for this.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard with these shows because I always feel that, like, it might be unfair to some shows where stakes are always low to expect the stakes to suddenly be really high.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking like kind of true neutral, like just putting it at 5 seems fair enough.
Yeah.
But I could go a little bit below that even as well too.
I think 5 is fine. It's par for the course of the show.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's a good way of putting it. Okay, personal ranking. Any last things you want to say about it before we put our personal stamp on this?
Let's put our stamp on it. Let's just do it.
Okay, let's
dive right in.
Do you want to count us down?
Yep. Okay. 3, 2, 1,
8.
9.
Whoa.
Ooh, that was a shock. I did not think that I was going to be higher than you.
Yeah, I also
wow.
An 8.5 seems fair, though.
8.5 seems right. I think we ended up at the right number. So, with that, Scrubs gets a 79 out of 100. A pretty good showing, but it is in last place. I mean, it's number 2 in the 2 musicals we've done so far. Buffy remains on top.
So embarrassing for those doctors. Next week, we'll see you once more with Season 2, Episode 9 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, entitled Subspace Rhapsody.
You'll find this episode on Paramount+.
Thank you to Olivia Brasovsky, our angelic audio architect, and to Sakana Powell, our debonair digital designer.
If you like the show, please be sure to rate and review us. And if you don't, keep that to yourself, okay? You can find us on Instagram at Once More with TV, or contact us using the information in the show notes.
And
scene.